The market's picking up yesterday, but this month the ICC hearings are posing some risk, and then we've got the increasing possibility that we could be looking forward to higher interest rates moving forward to consider as well. What's your outlook for the markets as we head into the month of April?
A very challenging one, you'd say. If you look at the inflation numbers, which came in over the week, 9%, and last year we had an average of 5%. This year we are seeing inflation creeping up quite significantly, and as you mentioned, probably further monetary tightening. So, for the market, I think we'll see a little bit of, nothing really moving. We'll have some sort of further volatility in the market. So you see some stocks going up, a bit of profit taking, and then we are back down to some sort of flat level. So nothing very aggressive in either directions.
Well, Eric, with little news flow hitting the markets right now, I want to take a look at a theme centered around the insurance industry today. Amidst all the earnings reports we've seen come through over the last couple of weeks, we had British American Kenya's numbers emerging as well, and that a company that intends to list by June. And I want to hone in on the fact that it's seen an uplift in new business growth, where insurance is seen as that next growth area moving forward. What's your view for potential growth in the insurance arena?
Obviously, if you're looking at the insurance sector, you have to differentiate between the premiums, and those have been growing quite significantly. But an insurance company typically does not make its money from premiums. So you're looking more at the assets that it's invested in. And so basically you're looking at investment income. And that's come in quite strongly for most of the insurance companies. I mean, we had British American, we have Pan-African Insurance, Jubilee Insurance is also going to be releasing results. And 2010 was generally a strong year for insurance companies, and so we're likely to see very strong performance. So obviously, as an investor, if you're buying an IPO during 2011, the high base created by the performance of the market in 2010 might cloud your judgment in terms of how well the company could potentially perform in future. That said, the premiums obviously and the penetration rate is still quite low, and there's a lot of room to grow into the future.
Absolutely, because having said that, there's a strong reliance on investment income still. We've had a British American Kenya saying that it sees insurance as a growth arena due to that low level of penetration. Stanbic's planning to list its insurance arm in April, where it's restructuring, and we're seeing a separation of the insurance business of a CFC Stanbic Holdings from the banking arm coming through. UAP is another insurer that's looking to list this year, so that taking it to 3. So it seems that there is a lot more attention being paid to the core business of doing insurance in the country.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if you look at life insurance, that has very low penetration rate. Obviously, for statutory, for insurance that requires statutory deductions, that's already has a lot of. We've seen a lot of uptake on that because that's really mandatory. But for the other areas, annuities, other products, especially aligned to life insurance, we've had very limited coverage. And so it depends on how innovative the insurance companies can get. And obviously with the new capital that they might be looking to raise, obviously that can help enable them to be able to take on new business.
Of course, we've seen Pan-Africa Insurance, one of the insurance companies, out with numbers. It's also recently announced that it's open talks with Apollo Insurance to dispose of its stake in APA Insurance, which is a joint venture they co-own, where Pan-Africa has a 40% stake. Market reaction to that news by Pan-Africa right now?
I think at the moment, it's a bit of caution. Obviously, it depends on the price that they'll actually sell. It's obviously a good time for them to actually be selling, because if you look at the earnings performance in 2010, but obviously, going forward, it depends on how they're going to use the money, whether they'll distribute it to shareholders or whether they're going to reinvest it back to the life insurance business, because now we're seeing much stronger insurance companies looking at the Kenyan market. And, obviously, Kenya is a financial center. There is a lot of room to grow in the insurance sector, and, a lot of room in terms of new products that could be launched.
We know that Pan-Africa is half owned by insurance firm Sanlam, South African insurance firm Sanlam. And if this transaction goes through, some say that it would be one of the most important ownership shifts in the insurance industry. How do you see this changing the landscape at all?
I think you also have to look at, you know, I mean, we have CFC Stanbic, where we're having now the CFC insurance holding sort of coming in separately. And that's going to be really more controlled by Liberty Insurance, also of South Africa. So we are seeing a foray of foreign insurance companies looking into the Kenyan market. And obviously, there's an element of innovation that we are going to see. But obviously, you also have to look at the regulatory changes that we are having in the sector. So in terms of ownership, we are having rules almost similar to the banking sector. And obviously, these changes are going to spur, you know, positiveness in terms of growth for the sector.
We're waiting to see numbers out of Jubilee in Kenya a little later today. What are your broad expectations there, and what's your view on a player like Jubilee within this space?
Jubilee is the largest composite insurer in East Africa, and you're just going from the organic growth. I mean, on the premium, we expect that to still be very strong. Also on the investment side, you know, just given the market conditions during 2010, then, you know, overall, we expect very solid earnings from Jubilee.
Of course, when it comes to Kenya Re, that is a company that is in the business of reinsurance. Your view on a player like Kenya Re?
I think Kenya Re has had some challenges, especially on the management side. I think going forward, they also have challenges with regards to capital. For an insurer to really get good quality business, you really need to have your asset classes well aligned. And you know, I think the first significant challenges, they have some properties, they need to develop those, you know, to be able to add value, improve liquidity and so forth. So for them to really leapfrog and become a very dominant player in terms of reinsurance, I think they really need to improve on their capital base in terms of efficiency and maybe also on the amount.